Oh, these guys show up in the circle and they look around and you can just watch them like, oh man, there's no one here. Look at these lames. I'm not gonna have any friends. Oh, this sucks. I wonder if it's like there's still time to like call my mom. Almost invariably, by the time we get to that closing circle, everyone has the reflection, wow, I came into this thinking that there was going to be nobody who could understand anything about me. And I've had some kind of meaningful connection with every single person here.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Love, Loss, and Hallucinations. Just quickly before we jump into it, be sure to like, comment, share, all those good things if any of this podcast resonates with you. And we're just gonna get going straight from here. Let's do it. My guest today is Eli Marienthal. I said that correctly, yes?
Perfectly.
Okay. Eli is the co-founder of Back to Earth, one of Northern California's premier youth wilderness immersion and rites of passage organizations. He's been taking teens on 7 to 10 day backpacking trips since 2014 with Back to Earth. You're a very brave man, I gotta say.
It's a calling.
It's a calling, yeah. We'll definitely get into that.
Cool.
And one of their signature programs is the acronym WILD, which stands for Wilderness Immersion Leadership Development. So also looking forward to talking more about that program and the whole rites of passage thing. And in his past life, he was an actor. Yes, and you may know him, or at least a younger version of his voice, from playing Hogwarts Hughes in the animated film The Iron Giant.
Indeed.
It was him. This
guy.
It was
me.
Yeah.
A whole voice change ago.
I'm sure you get, like, people ask you to call that up and you're like, it's not happening.
Long gone,
Yeah.
Long gone. But the spirit of the character, very much alive.
Yeah. I got a couple questions around that.
Cool.
So
I
we'll
love
see
talking about that.
how it comes up. Yeah, I love it. So I think before we, get into everything on a deeper level, for those people out there who may not know, like, what is a rite of passage? How do you define that?
I think of the rite of passage as the culminating event, the celebration, the threshold between one developmental stage and another. So I've been very moved by Bill Plotkin's work in particular.
Animus Institute, Bill Plotkin, yes.
I think that's something that we share.
We do.
And I've been very moved by the notion that our life, if we are pursuing it in a soul-centric way, moves us naturally. We are moved. Our soul has a yearning to develop through some familiar stages: early childhood, middle childhood, adolescence, into adulthood and elderhood. And that each of these phases is marked by a particular set of developmental tasks and gifts and forms of human genius. And so the rite of passage has been historically most associated with that transition from adolescence into adulthood. Many cultures have a very formalized way of doing this. It could look like the uncles in the village showing up in masks one night and pulling you out of your mama's hut for the first time and taking you out to the bush.
Yeah.
And then you're with the men and the uncles and the grown folks and the old fellas. And they have a series of tests and tasks out of which one might become an initiated adult man. Obviously, in this culture, we don't have anything.
Yeah, I was going to say that I know obviously from my own experience, but yes, it seems to be something missing in our culture.
Indeed, and it's something that many of us find our way towards, ways of marking those transitions for ourselves. We are doing our best to make meaning in something of a fractured culture, to say the least.
Right.
Where both our own sense of what the meaning of a life is, what the roles and responsibilities of a given moment in our lives have been pretty lost, and then also the cultural context in which it might be recognized, validated, and in which we might be held to this new role and this new set of responsibilities. And so I think it's been pretty well remarked at this point that this is a real tragic loss from the standpoint of human culture.
Right.
That this is a very important aspect of the human growth cycle, and that out of its absence comes all manner of crazy and reckless behavior, looking for that same internal fulfillment of having tested one's mettle against the world, met the edge of the mystery, put one's body in danger and survived, and through that become the next more mature, more adult version of oneself.
Now, when you say like test against like the world, I mean, I suppose in our culture we could say, oh, people who go into the army might do that in a way. Or, you know, okay, there's sort of a rite of passage from going from being single to being married. And that's certainly a rite of passage, a little different than I think what you're talking about. In your programs with mostly teenage boys, correct?
Correct.
What sort of rite of passage are they encountering, or are you providing for them?
Yeah, so absolutely our lives are filled with these transitional moments. And it's interesting that you mentioned that idea of, you know, going into the army, which I think is a major life transition for a lot of people. One of the unique aspects of the rite of passage, as I think of it, is the process by which one cultivates the relationship to their unique and individual soul's purpose.
Right.
And that stands in really sharp contrast to other forms, let's just say, of adulting, whether that is enlistment or getting a job or taking on a mortgage, which certainly marks some kind of meaningful transition in one's life, but which have, let's say, a shadow of pulling towards a certain kind of conformity, whereas the rite of passage that we're talking about is the invitation to a young person, maybe who has actually just been on a bit of a conveyor belt. 2nd grade, 3rd grade,
Right.
12th grade, high school graduation.
We do that very well.
We do the conveyor belt excellently.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is a pattern interrupt, a moment of pause to start to ask those richer and deeper questions of ourselves. Who am I? What did I really come here to do? It might bear a lot of similarity. For some people, it lines up with the vision that their families had for them, and for others, it represents a really radical rupture. But in any case, it's that unique expression of the soul's purpose, of its destiny, of its dharma, that is at the heart of a really meaningful rite of passage experience.
Yeah, I feel like, say, Bill and some others, maybe Michael Mead, that sort of person, those sorts of people would say it's, you know, the rite of passage is, and going through it is about trying to get in touch with like the unique gift that you were born with and that you are here to bring to the world.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And, you know, teenage boys that I work with often don't yet have a very developed sense of that, but they're at that age where they're starting to feel that it is possible for that to emerge. And so in our case, the first important element of the pattern interrupt is just to get them out of their comfortable lives, away from their screens, away from the devices of distraction, and engaged, immersed fully in the natural world. Without that close personal relationship to the natural world, we are inevitably lost. We can be really functional members of society, but I really believe that as ecological creatures, as animals, as earthlings, having that primary relationship with our source material, with the earth, with the plants and the animals, is a precondition for a certain kind of growth and maturity over the arc of our lives. So that's the first piece, just like get them in the van and out of the city.
Yeah, and as much as people, so many people it seems like, want to ignore the fact that we're animals and then we're of the earth and from the earth, like, I mean, that's evolution. Like, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, and
we've been connected in that way for so long.
And we are still, but the apparatus that exists between us, and that's one of the things that we get to remember, is how utterly childlike in our dependence we in fact are.
Yeah.
And that all of the ways that we've developed to fortify ourselves and to mediate that relationship with the natural world, for all the convenience that they offer, for all of the comfort, the safety, the well-being, I am not knocking any of it, but it's good to take that time to drop below and feel that in fact we are still always being sourced by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the first step, as you said, was to get them off the screens, out of the cities, into the woods.
Second step is to get them connected to their hearts. And there's a lot of concern, understandably, for this generation. The rates of teen mental health are abysmal. Everything from anxiety, depression, all the way up to suicidality is really grim.
80% of suicides are men, whether that's boys or men.
And perpetrators of violence against both themselves and others. And so getting them connected to their heart, it can seem so daunting when we are inside of the familiar cultural context. And of course, in this moment, which I'm sure we will talk about, the volume is so turned up on a certain kind of expression of masculinity that is so damaging for others, but for boys and young men themselves.
100%.
And one of the things I find always astonishing is how quickly, when you offer an alternative cultural context, how quickly people take to it. There is something so innate. There is the desire to participate in a culture of kindness and of gratitude is like right there.
Right
it's
beneath the
right
surface.
there.
Well, and I was going to ask, these teenage boys, and you're saying the first step is to get them in touch with their heart. Most boys, if you present that idea like that, they're going to be like, excuse me, no.
Well, it's always a by attraction and not promotion.
And what do you mean by that?
I mean that teenagers are they are bloodhounds for bullshit. And they are watching you so closely, and it may look like they're sitting back and they got one eye half cocked, but they are watching. And the premise of the program has always been, let's share everything that was useful for us. Take it or leave it. No one is indoctrinating you. There's no cult here. There's no dogma to any of it. You don't have to believe anything about any of this, but we are going to, for the next week or 10 days, offer you everything that we know that we have found useful in our lives.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing up and giving it your best shot to feel what's really on offer here, not the surface. And I would say, for example, talking about the heart, just talking about it, what can happen in a week. I talk a lot about beauty because the world is beautiful.
Yes.
And I think a lot of young men have never heard a grown-up man talk about beauty, and about not just the beauty of the world, but about our beauty as men, being a beautiful person, living in beauty, allowing beauty to emanate from you. And it's one of those ideas that gets a lot of half side eyes and eye rolls at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes a familiar part of the way that we're talking to each other. And so it's that kind of immersion in a little counterculture. I mean, that's really what I think of it as. We get to go out, and for that week, we are setting all of the parameters. We are co-creating the culture. And of course, the memes come with them, and the video game talk comes with them, and they bring it with them, and then you just watch it kind of fall away. And so that's the sort of dropping into the heart.
Yeah.
Is getting comfortable with sitting around a fire and talking about what's going on. Trusting that you are in company that is not going to judge you, that's not going to put you down, that's not going to turn around and take your words and use them against you. And that itself is a profoundly healing experience.
Just to be heard.
Just to be heard.
In a way that you've never been heard on that level, these boys, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, our witness for each other is so precious. And whether I'm working with young people or adults, I often start with an active listening sequence, because just that experience of talking for 10 minutes and feeling like the other person is not just waiting to get their word in or tell their version of the same story, the way that it affects our nervous systems to feel witnessed, it is the beginning of all trust. And so from that place, we're able to stretch and put ourselves out into situations that otherwise might be totally beyond us.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And that kind of brings us to the third piece of it, which is that threshold moment. So we were given instructions. When I started doing this, it was not my intention to do ceremony per se, or even necessarily rites of passage. We wanted to take boys backpacking because my partner and I in this project is my best friend from high school, and we started taking ourselves backpacking in the Sierras. I was 16, he was 17, and we were like, oh my God, we're out here.
This exists.
This is real. It's like not a blank spot on the map. It's like actually the place. It's the center of things. And we wanted to share that feeling of wildness that is both explosive, expansive, and then also the wildness that is like a wild animal knows how to take care of itself, does not put itself in unnecessary danger, does not flirt with death, for the amusement and entertainment of others. And so that kind of wildness, that level of freedom and responsibility is something that we wanted to share with others. And we were getting ready to do it. And my dear teacher and adopted dad, George Bertelstein, said, "You're gonna put these boys out, right?" I'm like, I mean, I don't think so, man. It wasn't part of the plan. He's like, no, you're gonna put these guys out. Okay, and then he just gave us the blueprint of a ceremony. You're gonna bring them around the fire, and you're gonna drop them in, and then you're gonna send them out for 24 hours. You're gonna tell them to fast. You're gonna keep the fire and sing for them.
So you're meeting out by themselves, alone, 24 hours.
And that has grown over the years to be a 36-hour solo ceremony.
Oh, wow.
So they go out, they spend a night, they wake up, they have a day and a night, and then they come back, and in that time they sit in a 10-foot diameter circle that they've made for themselves in some beautiful place that they have navigated towards in the preceding days. And they sit there and, well, Lord knows really what they do, teenage boys. But they vacillate between the most intense boredom of their lives and states of tremendous exaltation, great relief, feelings of serenity and peace that are really elusive in the rest of life. And then they come back and they have a couple of days to integrate it and share their stories or whatever parts of it are useful to them. As someone who has trained in this, I'm sure these elements are all familiar to you.
Very, very much resonating for sure. I'm getting some goosebumps, I gotta say. Yeah.
Did you have an experience like that or big experiences?
Well, the Vision Quest, Vision Fast, whatever you want to call it, different terms for different folks. The one I did it when I was 34. I wish I had done it when I was a teenager. I didn't even know it existed when I was a teenager. Oh man, I can't even imagine how different my road would be. But the one I did was a 4-day fast out by yourself for 3.5 days. And you go through it all. You're in this one little area, and it's like, as you said, the most intense boredom, the most like incredible highs, and like, there was definitely like the veil was thin. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, that's so much of what I want for them is just that, to feel the thinness, to not necessarily develop their own mature ideas about the mystery, but just to feel that the world is mysterious.
You feel so connected in a way that, it's so deeply connected, it's hard to actually even describe, like how you hear the hum of the earth, you feel that connection and that energy, and it's real. Yeah. It's deep.
And it's that realness, exactly. It's that realness. I love the way that they come in with such strong ideas and opinions about the world, about what's possible. We get a lot of young men who come and they are intellectually turned on And it's that moment in life where you're reading, every class that you're taking seems to be giving you some whole new vantage on everything. If you're a scientist, you feel like, I really have a sense. I took AP Bio. I got to know about life here on Earth. And it's like, yeah. I mean, definitely, I feel that. And it is a big, mysterious world out there. And as you say, it's like you feel so tapped in, and then you can spend years just tracking the threads.
Oh yeah.
What was that? What did I feel? What was that sense of belonging that I experienced? What happened when those tears came? Where did those come from? What are they connected to? And you don't necessarily come back with all of those answers. In some ways, it's really shifted my thinking over the arc of time from really imagining what we do as rites of passage, in that sense that I started with, marking a culminating threshold in life, and really turned my attention more towards seed planting. So I think of it as a time when they go out and they really make themselves fertile, and they get to feel the fecundity of life around them and their place in it. And then we send them home, and we don't always know how those seeds show up.
Yeah, I mean, you're meaning fertile with ideas, obviously.
I do.
Not like teenage boys being fertile.
in their minds.
Yes.
In their minds and souls. Yeah. And so it's been a shift towards thinking about it as a sort of culminating event, and really starting to think about it almost as an originary event.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't the moment when it all comes together and then you've got it all figured out. Bang, bang, boom, cool, now I'm going to go home. I had a young man once, peel out of his spot 12 hours early and come back to our fire. No, I'm good. I figured it all out. I'm going to go to UC Santa Cruz. I'm going to do engineering. Like, well, that's cool, man. That's not exactly what we mean by the vision, because they are growing up in a culture that is so interested in plans.
Yeah.
And there's such a difference between a plan and a vision, between doing and the being, as you well know. And so I've come to think of it a little bit more like, we are the beginning of a process. For a lot of people.
Yeah.
We're the beginning of a process. We're the invitation to a different kind of relationship to self and to the world.
Yeah, and that's such a great way to look at it. It's like the first step, because just like as you were sitting there saying all that, I'm thinking like, well, that's exactly right, because I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now on this podcast if it wasn't for that vision quest 21 years ago now. So,
may I ask you?
Yeah.
What are the threads that you tracked out of that experience? What were the kind of song lines you followed?
Well, that was the beginning of a long journey, which, like the whole memoir thing that I've written that someday will be out in the world is about. But at the time, like, I was not clear on anything after that vision quest, but it helped me get through the next step. And then that led to Peru and doing ceremonies down there, plant medicine ceremonies, and that, helped helped me grow as a person hugely and get in touch with my soul and purpose at the time, or what I thought it was. Helped heal a relationship with my wife. We're still together. And the steps just keep going, like one after the other, and I can trace it straight back to that. We were in a place called Mystery Canyon in Utah. I mean, that's not the real name, but that's what they called it. And I still, like that, if I'm meditating or something like that, I often go back and just sit there in my head and in my body, and it just grounds me. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm wondering, is there a memory from all these years of work? I'm sure there's many, but a memory that you just, like, the first one that comes to your head that's like from one of these journeys with the boys, that you're like, oh yeah, this is why I do this work.
The first memory that comes to mind when you ask that question actually is the first trip I ever went on.
This was 2014?
It was the summer of 2015.
Okay.
And we didn't know what we were doing. We did not know what we were doing. And we were fired up. You know, we were in our late 20s, and we had recently discovered in many ways the old ways, the complex of spiritual technologies stewarded in large part by indigenous people and carried underground. And I think over the last 10 years we've really seen them come together into a certain kind of cultural cohesion. But we were so fired up and excited, and we wanted to share everything. We wanted to, get it all out there, and we were maybe a little overbearing. And I remember I still had to rehearse every time I talked to a group of teenagers. They totally terrified me. I was like, okay, I'm going to go over there.
Wow. I mean,
I'm going to tell them about how to pack their packs. Okay, so I'm going to tell them about. So, we were brand new, and we got out there, and we had one young man in particular who just was not feeling it. He was not feeling it. And we were thoroughly unprepared at the time for anybody to not be feeling it. We just assumed that anybody who showed up, and he had been brought by
resistance was strong in this one.
It was strong. And he'd had quite a personal story of, being, ending up in foster care, mother addicted, adopted eventually by a couple in San Francisco. And he was fighting us every inch of the way. And when we told those guys at the beginning, we're going to sit you out for 24 hours and do the ceremony, he was just like, no way, man. No way. It's like, yeah, right. Try me. And he had a real tough guy attitude going on. He had a lot of like, you don't know me, and you don't know what I've been through, and I don't really have to listen to you. And he was right. He didn't have to listen to us. And he went out, and he came back the next morning, and he had a look on his face like he was surprised. And he was just like bursting at the seams to talk, and we were still in the quiet and we're sort of landing, and he had not spoken much around the fire. I'm good, I'm fine. And but he was obviously just had something he wanted to express so badly. I said, okay, Matthew, what's up, man? He said, I had a dream. And in the dream, I was surrounded by animals. And then the bear stepped forward and spoke to me in bear language. And I can't tell you what it sounded like, but I understood it. And in the dream, the bear told me how to make peace. And I don't know what it means, but it was really cool.
Wow.
And we were just floored.
Yeah.
For so many reasons. Just the beauty of the dream. And it really was a reflection for us. Your job is to be a good custodian of these young people, to get them out here. But your job is not to fill their minds with the words and ideas that you think are important. You are offering them an opportunity to connect with something that is so much bigger than you. And we've got it. It was like the spirit of the thing. It was like, we can take care of this man so much better than you can. But thank you for doing your part. Thanks for getting him out here. We hadn't talked about dreams, or we talked to him about peacemaking particularly. I mean, it's woven in, but it was so clearly his own antenna.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even trying to pull that dream down. He wasn't sitting there, okay, I'm gonna have my dream journal, and I hope I get a really awesome animal dream. That would be like me. I want the really, it's like, what? This guy, you pulled this guy? Like, come on, like, I want the bear to talk to me. And, I've never had a dream like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so happy for him. And so happy for us, because it really let us off the hook. We kind of came back and we're like, okay, that's what we do, is we hold the space for their dreaming.
Yeah.
It's like we are not dream maker, and we do not have the answers for them. We're just a few years older. But we can bring them to a place and allow them to quiet their minds to the point where this is possible.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And while you were saying that, this Sting song comes to my head, and it feels like, it's a very special, I guess, like form of love for these humans and the earth. And, if you love somebody, set them free. I mean, I know other people have said that, and he just worked it into a song, Sting. But, that's the beauty here of, like, both the parents who put them out there. I'm assuming it's all from a place of love on some level. And you taking them out there. It's like loving all of this that's around us. I don't really have a question there. I'm just making an observation.
Totally. It is a hard thing sometimes in this world to find a way to practice one's love for others in a public facing way, in a way that contributes to the evolution of culture.
Yeah.
It's one of the hallmark, say, sticky points, it seems to me, of the moment that we're in,
Yes.
is that there are so many people with so much love in their hearts and such a desire to be of service. We are not living in a world full of greedy and uncaring people. We have just created a culture where it is so hard to just find a way to do it.
Yeah, and to show it without being judged or criticized or questioned or like, what's going on,
And for it to have that clear channel from the deep love place out into the world.
Yeah.
And for it to be received and appreciated. And so, for sure, Back to Earth has been a labor of love and emanates from my already existing, proclivity in that way. And it's also really been the deepest love training of my life.
Yeah.
To love these guys through whatever it is that's going on in their lives, and continue to hold space and cast seeds, and not take it too personally when they don't want it or don't want it like that, or not at this time, or to offer it generously because it's my privilege, my pleasure, and my prayer to do so.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to ask you about that, actually, is like, what, looking back over a decade now, what have you learned about love from leading these kids out into the wild?
It's really softened me. I love fiercely, and sometimes it has in the past had a propensity to come out as frustration, as anger, as dismay, when I don't feel it being received. And working with the teenagers has been an incomparable invitation to stay centered in my own love field, and as I say, not take it personally that they are coming to terms with their own hearts in whatever ways they are.
Yeah.
It's a really unfortunate thing how down on teenagers so many people are. And I understand, you look at the state of contemporary youth culture and it can look pretty vapid, and it's easy to blame them It's easy to blame them for being disinterested. Oh, when we were kids, we went outside and played. When we were kids, I was grateful for everything I had, when we were kids, et cetera, et cetera. And
which I feel like every generation does to the next generation, no matter what. Yeah.
Also
we
true.
had video games and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
And the forces of distraction,
very strong in this generation.
Very strong in this generation. Yeah. So it's always been true. And there is a marked shift because the forces that are aligned to capture their attention, to make them consumers, to feed that feeling of the hungry ghost of wanting to achieve and consume. And so rather than being angry with them for that, this has been a long process of softening, of tending to my own ability to stay loving, even when I'm feeling so frustrated with them, which if anybody works with teenagers knows that is part of the gig.
Yeah. Well, and you're also in a more extreme, not that one's harder than the other, but extreme environment. You're out backpacking and you're tired and you got to take care of how many kids are on a usual program?
It's usually 12 kids on a trip.
Kids. Yeah. And you're taking care of them, make sure they're safe, and you got to be on point the whole time, but also still stay soft. I mean, what a balance.
It is. And we really emphasize to them that we are doing these programs. Yeah, we have something to offer. We've gone through the ringer. We've had to get certain boots off of our own necks, as it were, along the way. And we had teachers and elders and guides and friends and parents who helped us do it. And so we want to continue to pass that down the line. Where'd my thought go?
It went over there.
Come back.
Passing it down the line of the love, I guess.
Oh, thank you. That we really emphasize that we're not presenting a program to them. We are engaging in this ceremony in the place that is appropriate for us. And so it's really been working us and growing us. When we send them out, we're not like, all right, cool, like crack open the beers, we're gonna hang out here. It's like we are at the fire singing and taking care of it for them, because that's just the place that is appropriate for us at our age.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're working at. And so if they are working to open their hearts and connect to the earth, we are working to open our hearts and connect to the earth. It's like we are all doing exactly the same deal, just at wherever we are along that cycle.
Yeah. Well, and it's exactly on the cycle, on the circle. Like, what's coming to mind is like, okay, so the kids are teaching you about this, like, being more grounded and soft around love in general. And then how is that how do you reflect that back to the kids as far as them? I know you incorporate various economic classes, hard to easy, and, all classes have their challenges. How are you reflecting back to them to, like, carry this love and empathy even back into their daily life?
Well, the bringing it home is the hardest part.
Yeah.
And, I've had elders say in many different ways, more or less, some version of the ceremony is the easy part, and then there's the life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
this is true.
the catchphrase that I use with them, which has become really useful for me and for them, is, we are often hard on ourselves in the wrong ways and easy on ourselves in the wrong ways. It's like we cut ourselves a ton of slack to not follow through on the intentions we set, to react in anger and frustration.
Yeah.
And then we feel a lot of guilt and shame about it and beat ourselves up and stay up late at night. And, I have a particular tendency. It's like 1:30 a.m. is my spin out
out
and
time.
Reflect on
Yep.
every piece of, unkind communication I've ever had with anybody.
Yeah.
And we're just working to rebalance that. Can we be firm with ourselves, disciplined in our intention to be committed to our practice, to conduct ourselves in a kind and loving way with the people in our lives? And then when we, as we invariably do, fuck it up and fail, then can we be kind and compassionate with ourselves on the other side? And
that's the key. Yeah, that is huge key.
I learned it from a young man out there who his parents sent him to us because he was really wrestling with vaping and nicotine, cannabis, and alcohol. And they were just in this really dreadful pattern where he could not set any boundaries, or he'd make a promise, then he'd break it, and then his parents got into this thing where they were the authoritarians, they were like tossing his room looking for his stuff, and then he got out there, and within 2 days he was just an emotional mess with guilt. Everything that he'd put his family through.
Oh, wow.
He just wanted to get back to his family so bad so he could tell them how much he loved them. Tell them, you know, I see it, Mom. I'm so sorry that I've been like that. And it was in our conversation over the arc of a couple of days where it was like, well, brother, could you be kind and loving with yourself this week about the ways that you haven't treated your parents how you'd like to, haven't treated yourself how you'd like to? And then could you also find a place of some resource, of some, metallic discipline around your behavior and your consumption habits? And so he was really my teacher, and I've come to see that as something that I apply in my own life and that I now share very regularly.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. I mean, yeah, powerful. I mean, yeah, that they're teaching you, you're teaching. It's
such an exchange. An exchange. You know, and they grow us up. You know, by showing up in their, in their contractedness and in their innocence and in that very protean moment of becoming their adult selves where they're getting off the conveyor belt and. They are constantly pulling me towards towards my daily prayer, which is to be a kinder and more loving version of myself. You know, it's like in the mornings, that is my prayer for my day. Always is I would like to be surprised and delighted by just how kind and loving I can be. Please, God, just may I be today surprised and delighted. By that. And
simple, beautiful prayer.
Boy, they give me the opportunity to live it.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on, just because we said at the top that we might, touch on Hogarth Hughes and like his rite of passage in the movie. It sounds like maybe you've put some thought about that a little bit, or how it's affected you in your rite of passage. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel so lucky. I had a career, started when I was 9 years old. My first gig was a CBS movie of the week with Dolly Parton.
Wow.
Playing a sad boy from a broken family, which turned out to be kind of like, I got a little typecast. So if you like look at my career, it's like, wow, this is really a preponderance of like sad boys from broken families. And, you know, Dolly Parton's got to come and save us before Christmas and make everybody happy again. And I did a whole bunch of jobs that kind of came and went, and it was a wonderful career. And I'm so grateful that there is one really truly enduring piece of art that I got to be part of, and that is the Iron Giant.
Yeah.
You know, it was Brad Bird's first feature.
It's amazing.
After whatever he'd done, 17 years of The Simpsons or something, and it really launched him. You know, Warner Brothers did not understand at all what they had, either in Brad or in that movie.
That does not surprise me.
Pixar was like, we know.
Yeah.
And shoop, and then, you know, The Incredibles and Ratatouille and everything else. And I think that the Iron Giant probably still has his heart, because it is truly a timeless work of art. I mean, I watched it maybe last year. They showed it at the Nevada City Film Festival.
Oh, that's
I got to take my daughter
and
watch it together.
Yeah.
And, that movie is about finding your soul.
Yeah.
It's like that movie is about how everything has a soul. That movie is about this giant metal man who was made, programmed to be a war machine. And through the love that he experiences with his friend, finds that he is not determined by the malevolent intents of his maker, and chooses sacrifice, chooses to live into his heart and give himself and everything for to be one of the good guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
To be Superman, to be to actually live out his soul's calling. So it's like, as I reflect on that movie, the parallels in my own life are always emerging and changing.
Yeah.
I think it is still an extremely compelling piece of art in favor of, or pointing out the ways that our fear of the other, excuse me, that our fear of the other can lead us into violence.
Yeah.
That very often when we encounter something that is foreign to us or that scares us, we react by wanting to destroy it. This is a parallel that has obvious implications for our world.
For all of human history, basically.
Yeah. And then the friendship across difference. The friendship of this little boy and his giant metal man is one of the truly, I think, remarkable coming of age and friendship stories. And it is his coming of age. It is his rite of passage, because he starts out sort of a lonely and disaffected and disconnected young person, and it's through his friendship and the devastating loss, getting to be a close witness to the supremely mature choice. When he starts out, he thinks that he's the teacher and that this giant robot is like his baby.
Yeah.
And then where it ends up is that this being, whoever he is, wherever he came from, whatever weapon he was intended to be, is not at all who he is. In fact, he's capable of the most mature and ensouled act of world making and sacrifice. So
yeah. Well, and I loved how you touched on like the friendship they developed, the close bond, despite coming from very obviously different backgrounds. And I feel like what you're doing with Back to Earth, also, everyone has such different backgrounds, such an incredible mix that, and I'm sure you've seen it on many of your programs, that like the bonds that are made, I would imagine.
Oh, these guys show up in the circle and they look around and you can just watch them like, oh man, there's no one here. Look at these lames. I'm not gonna have any friends. Oh, this sucks. I wonder if it's like there's still time to like call my mom. And then it's like we get in the van and we pop out in Yosemite and all of a sudden like everyone's friends. And almost invariably by the time we get to that closing circle, everyone has the reflection, wow, I came into this thinking that there was going to be nobody who could understand anything about me. And I've had some kind of meaningful connection with every single person here. And, the wilderness is the great leveler.
Yeah.
We are living in remarkably unequal times. And on the one hand, all young people could stand to spend more time outside, to be more connected to their hearts, to challenge themselves in healthy ways. And we also take young people who, at least as the culture would judge it, are some who are doing really well. And they're like, I was president of the robotics club and I'm on my way to Princeton next year and I'm getting straight A's and this is a cool enrichment opportunity. And we get kids who are really at the edge of being very disconnected and feeling like I don't even know what the point is. I might just zone out and hope that it goes by fast.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about the time in the wilderness is that you would not know who's who 5 days in from talking to them. You'd have no idea. Who are the kids who are really thriving? Who are the kids who are having a really hard time? Whose mom was like, oh, you're gonna love him. And whose mom was like, I hope he's okay, but call me if it really gets to be too much.
Wow.
You wouldn't have any idea. Because they have really, the container expands so much that they can be themselves, free of the pressure to perform in a certain kind of way. For some of them, it's very disorienting. They're like, I like the assessment. Can you be assessing us? Is there a better way to do good at this? You're like, not really. Sorry, man. You're just kind of like in the stew now.
Yeah.
And so those guys have to really readjust. And then it's that time at the fire where they have been holding it all together so well, and they start to realize, whoa, man, I don't have it all together. Like, actually, I've been kind of a dick. Wow, I actually feel really sad about the way that I treated my sister. And then you get guys who have been really hard on themselves and are like, I messed the whole thing up. It's too late for me. So I'm 16 and I'm already like, psh, why even bother? And they just come alive and they like love themselves and they're like, I'm not messed up, like I'm all good. And it's that equalizing that I love to see out there, that equalizing across so many gradients of difference, whether it's socioeconomic, whether it's racial or cultural, whether it's levels of experience in the backcountry, or just that relationship to themselves.
Well, and along those lines of, as you're seeing this evolution while they're out in the wilderness, it just like it's coming as far as around loss in a somewhat different context. Like, what do you witness them lose as they go through a week out there?
What a great question. The glaze on their eyes. Yeah, in the beginning, sometimes you're just like, what's Timmy doing over on the rock? And Timmy's just like, what am I doing here? And there's just a sense of like, I don't know how to participate. It's like, I'm out here and I don't know what the next thing is. It's like, there's not anything to eat. There's not anything to do. There's no assessment coming. And they really lose that as we move. And then you can still look out and see that one guy sitting out there on the rock, and instead of being like, what is he doing, slumped out on the hole, all of a sudden you're like, oh, he is sitting up there like, looking, he's like taking in the view. And it's that shine that comes back in, and it's so good to remember that they are not lost causes. That in fact,
they're not lost causes.
They are not lost causes. Like, they're right there. They're right there. It's like I had a young man say, I came out and I realized I'm not a sad person. It is my environment.
He lost his sadness.
He lost his sadness.
Wow.
And, and then you go back, and as we know, it's like we hit those peak experiences in ceremony so that it gives us a reference point, not because we can live there. It's like I've often felt that coming back from a trip or coming back from Vision Fast or coming out of a big ceremony, there's a certain kind of grief that comes in as the aperture closes. You come out and you're like, and you're like, oh, is this the new me? I can't wait to live like this forever,
Yeah.
And then you just have to reckon with the reality that, like, no, man, you get to soar, but you got to come back to earth, and being in a good way with that is part of the, part of the whole
Figuring
deal.
out those little threads that can keep you connected to that experience despite life happening and whatever sadnesses and trials and everything else that inevitably still comes up.
Totally. And once you have that point of reference, once you can even remember, you say, but I remember how it felt. I remember that I was well. Sometimes as we keep a written record, so you can go back and be like, wow, I was feeling really expansive. Oh yeah, I was feeling really expansive. Oh yeah, that rock. I remember that tree.
Yeah.
And so it's like We get to sort of hit a new high point. We expect a certain kind of come down. We expect that, the rubber hits the road when you end up back at home in all those same relationships, and everybody's anticipating picking up with you exactly where they left off.
It does not.
And
it makes it so challenging.
And it's really like one of the most challenging pieces of the work sometimes is I will get to spend 10 days with a young man who goes through a journey of forgiving his parents and then wanting to see them so bad, missing them for the first time in years. So excited to see them. I can't wait to tell my mom how much I love her. And then we're back in the park and mom shows up and is like, "Hi, honey, how was your trip? Did you have a good trip?" And you just watch them go, and they're like, can we go get sushi? I need a shower. And I just want to go, no! And that's part of the knowing that it's in there, and they've touched that. And I'd say one of the future directions for me is coming from the awareness that when families don't have a vocabulary to receive their young person back into, I try to communicate it. They get an email, from our home office while their boys are out, and like, your son is out there right now. Please send a good thought, and when he comes home, please try to meet him as the new version of himself. Yeah. And I know they want to, and it's really hard. Yeah. So those unwinding those ingrained family dynamics so that young people can be the new versions of themselves is one of the stickiest pieces. Yeah, it really is.
Well, in a way, it's like, touch on this a little bit before we're up here. We only have like 5 minutes left, but trying to respect everyone's time.
I'm having fun. You can go as long as you want.
In a way, just kind of working in a little quote unquote hallucination piece is like when the child goes out into the wilderness, the parent is still under this impression of this reality of who their child is. And that's, in a way, I'm not meaning this negative at all, but it's a hallucination.
Absolutely.
For when that child comes back.
Absolutely.
That person has changed.
Very well remarked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being okay with the change, trusting it is edgy, and they're already, they're already like so nervous for their boys. They just so badly want it to work out for them. And it's part of the reason why it's always been the role of uncles, uncles and aunties in a village culture. And, sometimes kids are like, are the other counselors? I was like, I'm sorry, man. Who are the counselors? I'm like, well, what do we call you? You can call me an instructor. You just call me your uncle. You can call me a bro. Like, all of these are fine. But it's always been the role of that person who doesn't have direct responsibility for your life with all of its attendant baggage, wanting it to work out for you, the fear of what if it doesn't work out for you? What will it mean for us? And what will it mean socially? And what will it mean for your siblings? And we get to be those people, not because we are any particular kind of evolved, but just because we're a little bit outside of the situation.
Yeah, and it's not going to set off the triggers like immediate family does.
Yeah, it's not going to set off the triggers for them, and it's not going to set off the triggers for us.
Right.
We can afford them the space to muck around and be a little bit messier in that becoming process. Try out new roles without, who's that talking? You never say that. You don't like those things. Like, we don't know them at all. So it's like you get to be brand new here. You get to be that most current version of yourself.
The judgment is removed, or the feeling of judgment.
Yeah.
And I guess just one last question for the parents out there, and you sort of touched on this earlier with the boy who had the dream about the bear. And again, to me, like, a dream can be seen as, in a way, it's a different reality. It's a different field, a different, a quote unquote hallucination. I mean, do parents come to you? Are they concerned about, when my child's out there by himself, what if he like has some crazy dream or like sees something that's not there? Because it's a challenging environment. Is that a concern? Does it ever come up? Is it?
Yeah, parents are understandably nervous. For one thing, because a life in the backcountry has some attendant risks.
Yeah.
Cannot be avoided. And then it is psychologically and spiritually pressureful to go spend that kind of time alone.
Yeah.
And so parents often express a certain kind of fear and concern ahead of time, and it's somewhat self-selecting. In the end, it has a lot to do with the personal relationships that we build with people. We are not a program of hired hands. It's like I'm not sending anybody out with a 22-year-old kid who just did the mountain school for a semester and thinks they want to be a Knowles guide, but they're going to stop over with us for a year.
Yeah.
That's not who we're sending out. The organization has grown very slowly and organically for 10 years because every single grown-up who's guiding for us, we met in some way through their own path, through their own dedication to their becoming. And so we also are really in it for the long haul with people. Nobody's just kind of dropping in and dropping out. And so we build with families over the arc of years, and sometimes people are very nervous the first year, and then once they know us, once they get a feel for who we are, we make ourselves available ongoingly. And it's really that personal relationship that sets the program apart in a lot of ways. A lot of parents have my cell phone, and we talk on a semi-regular basis before their kids come to the programs, after they come home from the programs.
Wow.
So I just want people to know we are invested in tending the seeds with them, that they can count on us as allies. And it's like when their fear comes up, it's kind of like, yay, awesome, Susan, I'm so happy for you that you get to touch that hard thing in your life.
And it's all comes from love. So
it does.
Absolutely. And I think I would just add, whether it's a dream or if you see something in the woods at night while you're by yourself, there's wisdom in that itself. Even if you don't get it, like the child with the bear, he may not have fully understood what all that was about then, but if he stays connected with it, it'll reveal itself.
I mean, I don't know about you. I feel like I'm in a constant process of, being like, oh, that's what that means.
Yes.
Now I get
100%.
it. And then 2 years later, you're like, I had no idea what that meant, but now I get it.
Totally.
And that's how life is. I have an elder who tells a story about a young man who came to a sweat lodge with him, and he didn't hear from him, and he heard he'd kind of gotten into some trouble, and then the kid went and enlisted in the Army, and he was super disappointed. He was like, oh,
the elder
man,
was.
The elder, and he was like, man, I guess I lost that kid. And he came back. The young man came back and told him, I hadn't thought for years about that sweat that we did until I was laying on the ground in Iraq getting shot at. And then finally, I could actually feel the wisdom that was present in that lodge.
Oh, wow.
And so you just never know where and when and how those seeds germinate. And it's our job as the slightly olders here to plant them, to cast some of them wide and not know where they go, to plant some of them really delicately and water them every day.
Yeah.
But just to take care of those seeds over the arc of time so that they can germinate on their own good time, whether we get to see it or no. And I think it's part of the, it's part of the thing about being a human being and wanting the best for the world is we will not be here to see the revealing of whatever it is that we are participating in.
Now. Yeah. 100%.
And making peace with that and being like, well, that is not that must not deter us from our work, from the sacred work of participating in the creation at this time in the best way that we can, not knowing everything we don't know, and not being able to see everything we can't see.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, anything else you want people to know? I feel like we're just getting started here. I definitely want to get you back for a future episode because we're just getting started there's so much to dive into here.
Well, I think we could have a whole other conversation that would be a little bit edgier, that would specifically tie into some of the themes that you're working with in this podcast and in the book, and in particular, the ways that plant medicine have a lot of information for the human beings.
Yeah.
And, I will just say it's one of the interesting things that we're working with as a culture around adolescence, is that in some ways we've come to really accept that teenagers are going to drink and smoke and explore in that way. Whether we feel nonchalant about it as parents or extremely worried and aggrieved by it, its preponderance in the culture is a reality. The ubiquity in music and in film and television is a reality. And I think it's one of the conversations that more people need to be having. It's like some people are still advocating abstinence only as sex education, and it doesn't work.
Nope, never has.
It never has. And I think there's a similar, we're in a similar boat when it comes to altered states of consciousness, where there's been a kind of fear and an abstinence-only approach. And I just want to be very explicit. I am not recommending psychedelics for teenagers, but I am suggesting that the urge to alter one's consciousness is a deeply embedded human characteristic, and many of us have found that it is a really necessary intervention and pattern interrupt at certain moments in our lives. Acknowledging that the frontal cortex is not hardened off until you're 24, and when you are 17, you are still in the process of ego formation, a healthy ego formation. Obliterating the ego is not a necessary intervention at that time. But could we still, even recognizing all of that, have a more textured and nuanced conversation about what it means to invite young people into, in ceremonial ways, in well-held ways, in ways that are connected to relationships with caring adults, elders, and mentors, and recognize that that urge to experiment, that urge to shift consciousness is an innate part of our wiring.
Part of being human.
It's part of being human.
Absolutely.
And that a certain kind of abstinence-only response to it from the culture has just driven it underground, and not even very underground, just sort of like tacitly accepted.
Yeah.
And I think this is an area that people who care about the next generation and who have felt the benefits of a sacred relationship with plant spirits ought to be having in a more thoughtful way.
Yeah. Well, I agree. We need to have another episode, and we can get deeper into that.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot there to unpack, for sure.
Let's do that.
Let's do that. In the meantime, where can people find you, Eli?
Check us out at www.backtoearth.org, and you can find me on Instagram at Eli Free Bird.
There you have it. And I'm just happen to have this book we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast sitting right behind us. So if you're wondering more about Bill Plotkin's work, Soulcraft is a great place to start. That's the one. And otherwise, you can find me on Instagram, Scott Shoemaker, as well as TikTok occasionally, and all the other places. But Eli, this was awesome.
What a pleasure.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Looking forward to our next conversation.
Me too.